New research reveals that flying may be more dangerous for infants than many parents realize. Here to shed light on some of the most common causes of in-flight infant death and injury is WSJ's middle seat columnist, Scott McCartney. Scott, thanks so much for joining us.
Good to be with you, Tanya.
So, Scott, this is some disturbing stuff. I've got to say, tell us about the recent study analyzing in-flight pediatric medical emergencies. What were some of the most surprising findings?
Yeah, this is really a new way of looking at research of safety for infants traveling. Some researchers at university hospitals in Cleveland got together with MedAir, which is a provider of health services to airlines, a ground center, call center where airline crews report emergencies and seek advice from doctors on the ground. They studied 7,500 pediatric in-flight emergencies all around the world. MedAir serves lots of airlines in lots of different places. And what they found is if you look at the deaths, and there were only 10 deaths, so not a large number, but 90% of them, 9 out of 10, involved infants under the age of 2. One was a 15-year-old boy. But the concentration of the deaths in infants was really alarming to the researchers.
So do we know what caused these infant deaths? I mean, the numbers, as you said, while still low, are very concerning.
Yeah, they are. It's the trend that's concerning. The researchers wanted to make clear this is not, they don't want this to be alarming. They don't want this to discourage travel. But there were a couple things. In about half the cases, there was a pre-existing medical condition, and in a few of the cases, the babies were actually traveling to seek medical care. And so the stress of the airline flight certainly had an effect on that. If a child has an existing medical condition, you need to take precautions and make sure you may need oxygen for the baby, things like that. So definitely consult health experts before you go. But just as concerning to the researchers were the otherwise perfectly healthy babies who didn't survive the flight. And in those cases, they had to speculate. They don't have the real answers, but they think some of them involve sharing seats with parents. That's especially on long flights where sleep is involved. The American Academy of Pediatrics for years has had a strong recommendation that parents not sleep in the same bed or couch with an infant. And then there were other issues about oxygen concentration and the effect that may have on immature respiratory systems.
So bottom line, if you are traveling with an infant on a long flight, you really should seriously consider getting them their own seat. Correct, Scott?
Yeah, I think this is more ammunition in that pointing in that direction. And this has been a debate for 3 decades. The National Transportation Safety Board has really urged the FAA to impose a regulation requiring that everybody have their own seat and that car seats be used. The FAA has resisted that. But I think these health researchers said that, especially on a long flight with sleep involved, it's not a good idea to share a seat with an infant. Bad things can happen, and a child really needs its own seat on an airplane.
And Scott, another quick point, things I want to point out in your story, you say window seats are better for kids, and don't forget how dangerous turbulence can be. And there's now a product on the market that can help with this, correct? Can you tell us quickly about that?
Yeah, the window seats, you want to be away from carts and things that can fall out of overhead bins. Turbulence is the #1 cause of injury for babies on board airplanes. Greg Fife, who's a former NTSB investigator, was the lead investigator on many crashes, became very concerned about this problem. And he and some others developed a little foldable foam seat that sits on a lap of a parent, clips to the parent's seatbelt. You can strap the baby in. Baby's happy bouncing on the parent's lap, but buckled in for any sort of turbulence events. The forces are so great, there's no way a parent can hang on to a child. And it really is kind of ridiculous that we ask people to strap down their laptops and bags and everything else, but not their children.
Right, and we strap down our kids in cars, but not necessarily in planes. All right, thank you so much for that very important report, Scott.